Welcome to Nightville, where every shadow hides a secret.
I knew from the moment the car pulled into the Circle Drive that this place was different. Madame Charlotte's home for wayward children was a spectacular sight. The sprawling mansion lay deep within the forest, far from prying eyes. Despite the gnarled trees surrounding the property and the vines creeping up the siding of the house, it felt inviting, like a new start, something that I, at only 9 years old, desperately needed. My driver sped away the moment that Madame Charlotte came to greet me. I flipped him the middle finger as he hightailed it down the dirt road. The jerk hadn't said one word to me the whole ride there. I was expecting to be reprimanded when I turned around. Maybe a slap on the wrist. Maybe well, that wasn't very ladylike, as my mother would have said. But instead of receiving a verbal lashing, I was shocked to find that Madame Charlotte was laughing. "Oh, I apologize," she said as her laughter died down. "That was very rude of me. Welcome, Liza. I am Charlotte Winterdown, the headmistress. The children and I have been very excited to make your acquaintance." I gazed up at her. Madame Charlotte was pale as a ghost with long silver hair that tapered off midway down her back. Her eyes were dark and her smile was thin, but it held a warmth that illuminated her features. Madame Charlotte was a good person. I didn't need to be a genius to see that. "Oh, it's getting quite late. I'll help you bring your bags inside. They look much too heavy for one little girl to carry on her own." "Thank you, Madame Charlotte. That stupid taxi driver didn't help at all." Madame Charlotte giggled and then picked up my largest suitcase. "Oh, Liza, I think you'll feel right at home here." We soon found ourselves standing in the foyer. A grand chandelier sparkled above us. I was enthralled by it. My parents had never been able to afford something so fancy. "Millicent, I know you're there. Come greet our newest resident," Madame Charlotte said, folding her arms. Soon, a girl with pallid skin and brown hair tied in braids emerged from around the corner. "I can't get anything past you," she replied with a frown. I stepped forward, extending a hand. The girl looked to be about my age. I was excited at the prospect of meeting a new friend. "Hi, my name's Liza. It's nice to meet you, Millicent." "That's Miss Millicent to you," she said, accepting my handshake and flashing me a grin. I couldn't help but notice her canines. They were abnormally long and looked sharp enough to pierce through metal. "Liza," Madame Charlotte said, "how old do you think Millicent is?" My age." She scoffed, and Madame Charlotte grinned. "Oh, she's 57 years old." My heart dropped. So this woman wouldn't be my first friend after all. "Oh, Millicent is my assistant," Madame Charlotte continued. "She helps with the administrative side of things. As a matter of fact, she handled most of your paperwork. She was instrumental in bringing you here." Madame Charlotte's smile seemed to light up the room. Millicent didn't look so pleased. "Oh, I was just doing my job, nothing more, nothing less. Now, if we're done with introductions, Robert is here to take your bags." A crash resounded from directly behind Millicent. She jumped. "Robert, what the hell? I told you not to bring that." Robert grunted. He held firmly to a luggage cart, his face portraying no emotion. I couldn't help but laugh. Robert turned to me, and it was then that I noticed how unsettling his appearance was. Half of Robert's face and one of his hands were light green. He was hunched over and the smell of spoiled milk had wafted from his strangely colored flesh. He wore a vacant stare that told me that there were no thoughts rattling around in that head of his. "Madame Charlotte?" I said, trying to keep my voice low. "What happened to him?" "Oh, who, Robert?" she replied, loud enough that he definitely heard it. "This is a tragic tale, really. Robert is a zombie. Well, half of one. We believe that whoever he was acquainted with in his previous life was experimenting with a cure. It seems that they were successful and administered it to poor Robert here. It prevented the spread of the infection, but it left him like this. Now he's only capable of following simple commands and responding with guttural noises. He's lucky that we found him. Yeah, real lucky this one, Millicent said, turning her nose up. Rolled a 7 in the game of life. Robert didn't react. Instead, he released a slow, drawn-out fart. The stench was so putrid that it made my nose want to cry. "Oh, that is vile," Millicent gagged, covering her nose. "Oh, somebody get the gas masks." Once the toxic fumes had cleared out, Millicent instructed Robert to bring my bags to my room while Madame Charlotte gave me a house tour. He did so with a solitary grunt. I could tell that the mansion was big just from looking at it, but descriptions didn't do it justice. Madame Charlotte showed me the main hall, the kitchen, the dining room, the library, the classrooms, the courtyard, and a large playroom with a wide array of toys. I was liking the house more and more by the second. "Now, Liza," Madame Charlotte said once the grand tour was nearly complete. She paused, gazing into my eyes. Her grim expression told me that she was about to say something serious. "Well, yes, ma'am. You are free to roam anywhere that we have toured today. All other parts of the house are off limits. I cannot stress this enough. You must heed my warning and not wander off. Do you understand?" Madame Charlotte's face took on a severity that felt foreign to me. The way that she had flipped from warm and welcoming to cold as ice sent a shiver up my spine. "Well, yes, I understand." "All right then," she said, her warm smile cracking the icy facade. "Let's show you to your room then, shall we?" Madame Charlotte led me up a set of stairs into a hallway. This is the children's wing. All children between the ages of 4 and 12 reside here. I have a feeling that you'll fit right in. I smiled at her and I didn't say as much, but I thought so too. Madame Charlotte marched down the hall and stopped in front of a room with an open door. "This is where you'll be staying. It's not much to look at, but you'll get accustomed to it." She then produced a pocket watch from her cardigan and glanced down at the glass face. "Oh, would you look at the time? I must be going now. Important matters to attend to. You settle in and come find me or Millicent if you need anything, dear." And with that, I was left to my own devices. Madame Charlotte was right. The room really wasn't much to look at. It boasted a single bed, a nightstand, a wardrobe, and a lamp. Talk about living the high life. I had begun the process of unpacking what little clothes I owned when the realization hit me. I was missing one of my bags. Panic flooded through me like a tidal wave. Oh, this was bad. Some of my most important belongings were in there. My stuffed rabbit, my grandmother's pendant, photographs of my parents. I couldn't lose that stuff, I just couldn't. Before I could drive myself into a frenzy, a boy around my age appeared in the doorway. He had striking orange hair, vibrant eyes, and he wore a smile that told me that he was a troublemaker. "Hi there, I'm Azar. Is this yours?" Azar lugged my missing duffel bag from around the corner and plopped it onto the ground. "Oh, thank you, I was wondering where that went. Robert probably got confused and took it to the wrong room. It happens a lot." I grinned. That made perfect sense. Azar stood there twirling his hair. I wanted to shoo him away now that my bag was secured, but I didn't want to be rude. "So, what are you?" I cocked my head to the side. "You really have to ask. The hair all over my body should have been a dead giveaway." Azar rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't want to assume," he said, shuffling his feet. His eyes suddenly lit up. "Hey, you want to see a cool trick?" "Not really." "Okay, I'll show you." And despite my protest, Azar pointed to his feet. One of the floorboards burst into flames. "Seriously, that's why I didn't want to see it," I shouted, racing over and stomping out the fire. While playing fire marshal, I felt a presence appear behind me, one that wasn't the boy who had just set my room ablaze. The girl spoke before I saw her. Really, Azar, again. You're the only one who thinks setting things on fire is cool. I like this girl already. I spun around to find not one, but two girls standing in my doorway. They stepped inside without an invitation. The first one had long red hair and red eyes to match, but that wasn't what made my heart nearly skip a beat, because sitting atop her head was a pair of shiny, pointed horns. The girl's friend was the mere opposite of her. She was pale as a sheet in a white nightgown with long black hair hiding her face from view. She didn't seem very social either. She hid behind the horned girl like a frightened child. The first girl stepped up and introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Astrid, and this is Luna. She's a ghost if you couldn't tell." "I see you've met the household idiot," she said, nodding to Azar. He didn't even acknowledge her. He just stared at his feet in shame. "It's nice to meet you, Astrid. And you too, Luna. So, if it isn't rude to ask, are you a devil? I like your horns." Astrid grinned. "No, a demon, but close." "And I'm a phoenix," Azar said, standing straight and puffing out his chest. "Nobody asked," Astrid replied. Azar's confidence deflated immediately. His crestfallen demeanor didn't last long, though. After a moment, he got that familiar spark in his eye. "So, Liza, how about you go exploring with us? I bet you haven't seen the fun parts of the house yet." Astrid scowled at him. Though exploring did sound fun, Madame Charlotte's words rang clear and loud in my head. "All other parts of the house are off limits. You must heed my warning." I sighed before meeting Azar's gaze. Maybe another time. I don't want to make Madame Charlotte angry on the first night." "But you won't ever find out, Shut up, Azar, she said no." Astrid's expression softened when she turned to me. "Don't let this moron pressure you into doing anything that you don't want to. My room's right next to yours. If he comes back to harass you, just yell." And with that, she grabbed Azar by the shirt collar and dragged him out of the room. Luna gave me a parting wave before the trio disappeared around the corner. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed on my best behavior. I was grateful to Madame Charlotte and the others for welcoming me so warmly. A small part of me felt like if I acted out, I would get sent to live in a dump, and so I stayed out of trouble. Until Azar visited me after lights out one night. "Psst, Liza, are you awake?" I yawned, pretending to be woken up. "I am now. What do you want?" Even in the darkness, I could see that mischievous passion in Azar's eyes. "You want to go exploring?" I paused. Truth be told, I did want to go exploring, but I wasn't about to tell him that. "I don't know. What if we get caught?" Another voice drifted from around the corner. "Oh, come on, Liza, live a little." Astrid appeared in the doorway, her bright red eyes lighting up the room. "Astrid, you're in on this too? I thought you were against breaking the rules." "Oh, then you thought wrong. I'm a demon, breaking rules is what we do. If you're still not comfortable with the idea, we won't pressure you into it. But Luna and I would be really happy if you came with us." Oh, this was wrong, I knew it was, but I couldn't resist. I shifted my weight to the edge of the bed. "Oh, fine, I'll go. But if we get caught, we're blaming it all on Azar." Astrid smiled. "Fine by me." The house felt completely different at night. The brightly lit hallways had turned to dark, endless corridors where shadows danced and trouble lurked around every corner. Azar led the charge. He seemed confident in where he was going. We managed to sneak past Madame Charlotte's office, through the teenager's wing, and into a hallway with doors on either side. This place was darker than the rest of the house, without any windows to let in the moonlight. I had to wait for my eyes to adjust. "Here we are," Azar said, extending his arms. "Oh, keep your voice down," Astrid spat, jabbing him in the ribs. "Hey, that hurt." "And where exactly is here?" I interjected. All I could see were rows of doors extending into the darkness. They could have led to empty storage rooms for all I knew. The sea of doors, Astrid replied. Haven't you heard the rumors? I had overheard a couple of boys talking about doors in my lessons, but I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. I don't think so, I said. Whatever, Astrid continued, a smile inching across her lips. You're about to see for yourself. Azar did the honors, because of course he did. The moment that he pushed open the door, a flood of light illuminated the hallway. It was blinding, but that didn't stop us from entering. Once each of us had stepped inside, the door shut behind us on its own. I was amazed at what I saw. We were standing in an arcade. Rows and rows of endless games hummed their tunes. Lights flashed everywhere. The ticket booth held enough prizes to make any child salivate. I turned to Astrid. Luna was whispering something into her ear. Got it, Astrid said, turning to us. Luna says to always keep an eye on the door. I gave her a thumbs up before Azar grabbed my arm and dragged me to a racing game. Play me, Liza. $1 says that I kick your ass. I glanced around. Astrid nodded. I turned to Azar and my lips melting into a smile. All right, you're on. A couple hours later, I was $10 richer and ready to get some shut-eye. Oh, come on, Liza, just one more game, Azar whined. Give me a chance to win it back, please. That's all the money that I have. Nope, sorry, I said, heading over to the door where Astrid and Luna stood waiting. You lost it fair and square. Azar stuck out his bottom lip. You cheated. Whatever you say, maybe I'll give you a shot at winning it back tomorrow. Azar's face lit up. I can't wait. I'm gonna beat you so bad. I shook my head. If you say so. With the four of us present and accounted for, we exited through the same door that we had entered from. It hadn't dawned on me before, but in that moment it hit me. Were we the only ones who could see the door? There were plenty of other people in the arcade aside from us, but I hadn't seen a single one pay the thing any mind. I was too tired to put much thought into it. That was a question for another day. The arcade was all that I could think about from then on. Why hadn't Madame Charlotte taken me there on our tour? Was she trying to hog all the fun for herself? It didn't make sense. I dreamt of all the unseen wonders that the other doors were hiding. I didn't have to wait long to find out, because the next night, Azar showed up at my room, a fresh $5 bill in hand. Hey, this time I won't lose, he said, waving the money in my face. I knew that I wouldn't be able to resist the opportunity to clean him out. A grin inched across my lips. Oh, you just wait. That $5 has my name written all over it. After picking up Astrid and Luna, we skulked through the house and back to the sea of doors. Azar walked confidently up to the maroon one with a scuffed handle. This is the one that we went through last night, I'm sure of it. He pushed open the door and there was no arcade. Instead, we found ourselves staring at a public restroom. A chubby man with grease stains on his shirt and toilet paper hanging from his pants waddled into view. What the hell, Azar? Close it now, Astrid shouted. Azar slammed the door shut, his cheeks flushing with color. It was the right door, I swear. Oh yeah? Astrid said, hands on her hips. Then why wasn't there an arcade in there? Maybe we're hallucinating. Let me try again. Astrid didn't even get the chance to tell him off. Azar flung the door open. There was no arcade, but there wasn't a restroom either. This time when the door opened, we were assaulted by the sounds of the rainforest. Monkeys screeching, parrots squawking, and a tiger roaring in the distance. We stared at each other gobsmacked. I understood it then. Chances of finding that arcade were slim to none. Azar shut the door, silence permeating through the hallway. What should we do? I asked, studying Astrid's face for an answer. I I don't know. Luna whispered something into Astrid's ear. She nodded her head in response. Luna said that we should go back. Azar's face dropped. No, we can find it again. We just have to keep trying. He opened the door to reveal an office space. Then there was a moon-like landscape. The third time he opened it, the door revealed a meadow full of sunshine, rainbows, and puppies. Lots of puppies. Azar nearly closed the door again, but I stopped him. Wait, you can keep your $5. This one looks fun. Astrid looked at the puppies and then turned to Luna, who nodded. Yeah, let's explore this one. Come on, Azar. Don't you want to play with them? Azar sighed, pocketing his money. Yeah, I do. The minute that we walked inside, we were swarmed by dogs. All kinds, too. Labradors, German Shepherds, Schnauzers, you name it. Nearly every breed you can imagine frolicked with us in that meadow. I don't know how long we spent playing catch and fetch, but I loved every second of it. When it finally came time to leave, we were all exhausted. So much so that I almost didn't notice it. The door, it had moved locations. When we had entered, the door had been sitting atop a foothill, but now it was at the bottom of a slope. I considered bringing it up to the others, but I thought better of it. We were all sweaty and tired and had just had one of the best nights of our lives. There was no need to spoil that. At least that's what I thought. Maybe if I had taken what I saw more seriously, I could have saved them from what was to come. Things continued on like that for a few weeks. The four of us would sneak out of our rooms, find a new whimsical world to visit, and sneak back before anybody noticed we were missing. That is, until I visited the Sea of Doors alone. I had lost my favorite scrunchie that night. When I woke up in a panic and realized that I didn't have it at 3 in the morning, I decided to retrace my steps. I thought that maybe I had dropped it in the hallway. And I was kidding myself. Deep down, I knew that I had lost it in the world that we had visited, but in my mind, it was worth a shot. I made it all the way to the teenager's wing. When I passed by, a boy had his door open. I tried to sneak past unnoticed, but a voice called out to me. Hey girl. I froze. To me, the teenagers were frightening, almost as authoritative as adults. I couldn't disobey. I walked up to the boy's door and I peered inside. He was sitting on his bed, face obscured by the darkness. I've seen you, you know. You and your little friends think you're so slick. You think nobody's noticed. Well, I have. I froze. I was speechless. I was like you once, carefree. I had friends who took me to the doors. They didn't know, how could they? I was trembling, but I managed to squeak out a response. I'm sorry. Please don't tell Madame Charlotte. The boy didn't reply. I could feel his eyes on me. Eventually, he responded, his tone softer. Do you know what happens when you choose the wrong door? No. The boy hung his head. I'll show you. He turned on his bedside lamp, bathing the room in a soft glow. The boy's body was covered in blue scales that shimmered in the light. Kelp green hair fell to his shoulders. From what I could see, he was handsome. And then he turned. The entire right side of his face was a deep, angry shade of red. A ruined eye was buried beneath a mass of swollen flesh that streaked into his hairline. It was twisted and lumpy and wrong. I was horrified. I let out an audible gasp. A tear trickled from the boy's good eye. The thing that did this to me is still out there, still behind one of those doors. You have to stop going there before it's too late. I couldn't find the words to reply. Instead, I did the cowardly thing. I ran away. I ran and ran until I made it all the way back to my room, and then I threw myself in bed and I hid under the covers. I didn't get a wink of sleep for the rest of the night. The next day, I couldn't get the interaction out of my head. Had the boy been telling the truth or had he been trying to scare me? I couldn't think straight. I was on edge during lessons. After class let out, Astrid came up to me. "Liza, are you okay? You don't look so good." I let out a breath. I watched the rest of the kids file out of the classroom, leaving just me and her. "Astrid, I think we should stop, you know." I couldn't say too much. Our instructor was acting preoccupied, but I knew that he was listening. Before Astrid could respond, somebody knocked on the open door. We turned to find Millicent standing in the doorway. "Morning, Mr. C. Mind if I take these two for a second?" Mr. Carter smiled. "Perfect timing. Class just let out." Astrid and I gave each other a nervous glance. We knew that whatever this was about, it couldn't be good. Millicent didn't say a word to us the entire way. The silence was eating me alive. Did she know? Once we had arrived at Madame Charlotte's office, I had my answer. Azar and Luna were seated in adjacent chairs. Madame Charlotte stood behind her desk with Millicent at attention by her side. I had never seen a more frightening look on her face. "Astrid, Liza, take a seat." We followed orders, our heads hung low. "I take it each of you knows why you've been summoned here." No one moved except for Azar. My heart dropped when he raised his hand. "Is it because I stole $5 from Kenny?" I had to resist the urge to facepalm myself. "No, Azar, you are not here because you stole money from Kenneth, but we will address that after the fact, young man." Azar frowned and I shook my head. Astrid was right. He was an idiot. Madame Charlotte continued. "You have been gathered here because a little birdie told me that you've been breaking the rules, exploring parts of the house that are off limits." It immediately clicked. The boy from the night before. He had told on us. Madame Charlotte surveyed each of our faces. I felt so ashamed. I could have burst into tears right then and there. "Not only that, but I'm told that you've been visiting the doors after hours. Is that correct?" I glanced at Astrid. She nodded her head, and the rest of us followed suit. "I am very disappointed in all of you, especially you, Astrid. As the oldest, these children look up to you. I expected better." "Yes, ma'am." Astrid's voice trembled as the words fell out. "Now then, to teach you a lesson, each of you is grounded for the next month. Your free time is hereby revoked. After class, you shall remain in your rooms until dinner is served. Do you understand?" A pit formed in my stomach. Each of us nodded. "Say it aloud." We mumbled in unison, "Yes, ma'am." Madame Charlotte pursed her lips. "Millicent will stand guard in the children's wing overnight until your punishment is lifted. Try anything at all and she will report it directly to me." Millicent's mouth fell open. "But madam, why do I have to watch over them?" A grin tugged at the corners of Madame Charlotte's lips. "Oh, because you're nocturnal, dear. I can't entrust the job to anyone else." Millicent frowned. If she objected, she didn't make it known with anything other than a scowl. Madame Charlotte crossed her arms. "That is all. Return to your rooms and think about what you've done." We trudged out of her office single file. Azar was the first to get up. "Azar, you stay seated. I don't think I've forgotten about your sticky fingers." He gave us a pitiful look as the door clicked shut. When I got back to my room, I cried. Madame Charlotte was disappointed in me, but worse still, I had lost the freedom to hang out with my friends. After I had finally found somewhere that I belonged, I had a feeling that this was going to be a long 30 days. Before I knew it, 2 weeks had gone by. They were two of the most excruciatingly boring weeks of my life, but that was beside the point. I was tossing and turning trying to get to sleep, when a knock on my door made me freeze in place. "Miss Millicent?" "No, dummy, it's me." "Me who?" "Azar." My brows furrowed. "Why are you here and how are you here?" I thought Miss Millicent was standing watch. In the light emanating from the hallway, I could see a grin form on his face. Well, I overheard Madame Charlotte say that Miss Millicent is away visiting family for the night. She'll be back tomorrow. They left Robert here in her place. A surge of hope jolted through me, until I heard the next words to leave Azar's mouth. Let's go back to the Sea of Doors, just this once. I frowned. No, we can't. What if Madame Charlotte finds out? Oh, she won't find out, you ninny. Besides, even if she does, what is she gonna do? Ground us some more? I'm already grounded for 3 months. I snorted. Well, I've only got 2 weeks left, and I don't want to risk it. Go ask somebody else. Oh, come on. When are we gonna get another chance like this? Think about it. I thought about it. Maybe Azar was right. Miss Millicent was vigilant about making sure that we didn't escape. If Azar really did have 3 months left on his sentence, we wouldn't have another shot at this for a long time. I sighed. Fine, but if we get caught, it's all on you. Azar pumped his fist. All right, I already told Luna and she's meeting us there. Let's go get Astrid. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could. Azar and I padded down the hall to the room beside mine. Robert was slumped against the wall, snoring loudly enough to wake the dead. Azar and I knocked, and then poked our heads around the corner to Astrid's room. Psst, Astrid, are you awake? Azar hissed. Astrid yawned and sat up. Whatever it is, I'm not doing it, Azar. Go back to bed. Oh, Astrid, don't be like that. Miss Millicent is gone, and this is our chance. Astrid lay back down. No. Astrid, please come with us, I said, hoping to win her over. Just this once, then we'll come back and act like it never happened. Astrid shot up. Her eyes glowed bright red in the darkness. I took an instinctive step back. I said no. Who was Madame Charlotte the most disappointed in when we got caught? Me. I'm the oldest, so I'm in charge, right? No, I'm done. You two can get yelled at without me. Azar and I shared a glance and I sighed. All right, sorry that we asked. See you tomorrow. My heart felt heavy. This wouldn't be the same without Astrid. Azar and I crept down the hall past Robert's unconscious form. I held my nose. His stench was unbearable. Once we made it to the end of the hall, we heard a voice from behind us. Wait, I changed my mind. I'm coming. This time, I made sure that the boys' door was shut when we passed through the teenagers' wing. We moved quiet as church mice. Each of us knew what was at stake. And true to Azar's word, we found Luna waiting for us in the hallway. She instantly floated over to her usual spot behind Astrid. What door should we pick this time? Azar said, poring over these seemingly endless selections. You aren't choosing, Azar, it's my turn, Astrid retorted, and I know which one I want. This one. Astrid pointed to a bright red door. Azar shot her a glance. Fine, but I'm gonna open it. Astrid extended a hand. Go right ahead. The moment that Azar pushed the door open, I knew that Astrid had made the right choice. We found ourselves staring into a crowd of people. Carnival music floated through the air and the smell of corn dogs and funnel cakes beckoned us inside. Azar grinned. He held up a $5 bill. And Kenny should really watch his wallet closer. I bet I can beat you at the ring toss. I smiled. You're going down. We raced around the carnival having the time of our lives. I beat Azar at the ring toss, obviously, and then we lost ourselves in the endless games and rides. At one point, I noted that the door had moved from its original position. It didn't worry me as much as it should have. We would find it when we were ready. I was in line for cotton candy when I first noticed that something was off. The man ahead of me, he looked off, like he was starting to shift. The particles on his clothes phased in and out like he was made of pixels. I studied his Hawaiian shirt. The flowers on the fabric were moving. I froze and glanced around. I noticed it with other people too. Only a few at first, but then it worsened. The crowd began to whir and lag like they were bad CGI in a video game. Suddenly, the music went sour. The tents and stands around me began to dematerialize. I thought that I was losing my mind. A deep-seated dread settled within me. This wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe this was what the boy had meant. Maybe we were right to be afraid of the doors. The world began to fade, and booths and people melting before my eyes. To my relief, I found my friends close by looking as dumbstruck as I was. In a matter of seconds, it was all gone. Even the ground below our feet had vanished, leaving an endless void of black. All that was left was us, the big tent, and the door. "Astrid, what's going on?" I managed, but the words came out soft and brittle. "I don't know." Before any of us could react, the tent began to morph, the colors shifting. It twisted and writhed and folded in on itself like laundry in a dryer. Before I knew it, something else took its place. An ungodly abomination sat where the tent once was. At first, I thought it resembled a black octopus. The only difference was, this thing had 7 heads jutting from stem-like stalks. Each wore clown makeup. 3 smiled, 2 frowned. One was angry and the other bore no expression at all. My heart dropped, because at that moment I realized something that I should have noticed much, much sooner. The door had shifted to directly behind that creature. All 7 heads started cackling, a cacophony of voices that melded together to form a sinister, desynchronized bellow. Without warning, a tentacle lashed out. Azar unleashed a blast of fire and it shriveled back. To our collective horror, the tentacle began to heal. A second one focused on Astrid. She cast her shadow spell. One of the faces howled in pain. That only seemed to anger the thing. A rain of tentacles shot out from all directions. I had to do it. I knew that I had no other choice. I released a guttural roar as my body began to change. My muscles became more pronounced. My claws grew longer, my teeth sharpened. I could feel a sudden burst of rage coursing through me. Azar's eyes grew wide. "I thought you needed a full moon to do that," he said. "Nope, just a myth," I replied, swiping a tentacle away. "And I thought you were supposed to be a bird." Azar grinned as he shot off more flames. "Yeah, fair enough." The tentacles just kept coming, one after another, overwhelming us with their numbers. No matter how hard we fought, we couldn't seem to gain an advantage. If this came down to a battle of attrition, we were going to lose. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, one of the heads spoke.
"I know what you did."
My blood turned to ice. A smiling face repeated the words in a sing-song voice.
"I know what you did."
Soon the others joined in unison.
"I know what you did."
"Stop it, just stop," I yelled, slashing harder at the oncoming tentacles. The heads continued one after another.
"You're the reason your parents are dead. It's all your fault. You could have prevented it."
Tears fell down my cheeks, soaking into my fur. Stop it, please." But the voices kept going.
"You knew where your father kept the gun. You could have saved them, but you ran and hid like a coward. They're dead because of you."
I couldn't contain my emotions any longer. I unleashed a roar and a flurry of slashes, battering back the tentacles. I fought in a blind rage, biting, slashing, and slicing up the slimy appendages until I was surrounded by blood and severed flesh. But it was no use. The thing was healing too fast. My heart sank. That boy had been right. We were going to die here. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Luna whispering something into Astrid's ear. Astrid nodded her head and her face hardened. "Liza, Azar, listen up. Luna is going to use her curse and we have one shot at this. When I say so, run for the door as fast as you can." The heads responded.
"It won't work. You're going to fail. Don't even try it."
Astrid waited for a beat. "Now!" she shouted, sprinting for the door. The three of us followed behind her. The faces screamed in agony, some unseen force causing them intense anguish. We ran like the wind, dodging flailing tentacles left and right. Luna was the first to reach the door, followed by me and then Astrid. I should have felt relieved when I made it back to that familiar hallway, but I didn't. Madame Charlotte stood before us. She didn't look angry, just concerned, urging each of us through. Azar was the slowest runner. Luna's curse had almost completely worn off by the time that he came close to the exit. He was almost there, mere feet away. He made one final lunge at diving to safety, but he didn't make it. A tentacle wrapped around his leg and pulled him to the ground. Dread crashed over me like a tidal wave. This couldn't be happening. Madame Charlotte moved me aside. "Children, cover your ears." We did as we were told. Madame Charlotte unleashed a deafening wail. It was so loud that it shook the walls. The beast writhed in pain. Her attack had worked, and the thing let go of Azar. I smiled through the agonizing sound. He was going to make it. He was going to be okay. The beast flailed, its limbs swinging wildly. With one rogue motion, a tentacle had slapped the door and slammed it shut. My eyes grew wide. Shock took over. No one moved for a long time. "Madame Charlotte, we have to find him. We have to go back." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Liza. We won't be able to find him. There are millions, if not billions, of possibilities when you open one of those doors. If Azar is going to come back to us, he'll have to do so on his own volition. But there has to be something that we can do. Maybe there's a key. There has to be someone." Astrid cut me off. She stared ahead, a cold, stony look in her eyes. "Liza, just stop. We can't help him now. Azar will make it back. I know that he will." Her words hung in the air. Everything went quiet once again. Azar didn't come back that night. Madame Charlotte called me, Astrid, and Luna into her office the next day. Her eyes were red-rimmed and her makeup was a mess. "What happened last night was a true tragedy. I blame myself for not keeping a closer eye on you kids." I wanted to shout that it wasn't her fault, that we were the ones who had wandered off, but I stayed quiet. The pain was so fresh that speaking felt agonizing. Madame Charlotte dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief and continued. "I should have explained to you the true dangers of the doors. I was naive in hoping that you wouldn't have heard about them. In the past, we have tried implementing various methods to ensure that nothing like this occurs again. The doors cannot be locked. The hallway cannot be obstructed. All camera feeds become grainy and unwatchable. Any attempt to block the doors is undone during the night. Millicent and I have tried everything to rid them from this property, but we have failed at every turn." Madame Charlotte stared at the door to her office. Her face hardened. "It was a young mage who had installed them. His parting gift to us, a curse. I loved that boy like a son, I truly did. But it seemed the more care I showed him, the more that he loathed me. He hated me in this house more vehemently than anything that I've ever seen. That boy broke my heart. And then the day before he had turned 18, he left us the doors. His version of a cruel joke." Madame Charlotte didn't immediately wipe the tear from her cheek. It ran down her face until she was drawn back to the moment that whisked it away. "I was hoping that something of this nature would never reoccur. What happened to Cyrus was horrid enough. But now this." Madame Charlotte pursed her lips. "Under normal circumstances, I would ground you children indefinitely. But I think what you're going through is punishment enough. I'm sorry. Each of you has already suffered more than any child should. No one should have to experience this much loss." A tense silence fell over us. I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to be there for her and Luna and Astrid, whose blank stares spoke louder than words ever could. But I said nothing. Madame Charlotte dismissed us from her office. Once the door closed, I heard her break down into sobs. It's been 6 years since then. Despite holding on to a sliver of hope, Azar never came home. Astrid and I gradually grew apart. I think she blames herself for what happened. She grew colder after that day. We've both since moved to the teenager's wing. I keep my door open every night and sleep with one eye open. That is the burden I must bear. For as long as I live here, I will never let another child walk through those doors.